computer. So welcome to Lush Australia on Zoom on this Monday. And our guest today is Tricia O'Keeffe from the Faith and Light community in Geelong. Welcome, Tricia.
Hi there, Tony and everyone and old friends.
Now, I might have to explain to viewers who are not familiar with local culture. Tricia is in Geelong. I come from Geelong, and this weekend, Geelong are playing in the AFL Grand Final. It's like a religious code, and so being dressed appropriately is an important part of this week. And for those of you that may not be familiar with the practice, just Google AFL Geelong and you will learn all you need to know. We do have an audience member who supports Richmond, who are the other team in the game. You can also do AFL Richmond, but I think the AFL Geelong will be the one we can promote today.
Yes,
Tricia, our
yes.
conversation today is prompted by the fact that you recently did an interview for the National Evangelisation Centre on your life story and your work with Faith and Light in Geelong. So, out of interest, how did that story come about?
How did the story come about? Well, the people in Canberra were prompted by another friend in Geelong, and they were interested just to interview just an ordinary, person in the church that was doing something they thought interesting. And so I'm not totally sure, but I think it was Kevin Mark here in Geelong that sort of started it. So then Sharon interviewed me, and when I first hesitated, she asked some other people around Canberra who knew me, and so it kind of went ahead. But I was a bit shy to do it. I was. So
It's a great interview, Tricia, and perhaps you could start by maybe because the story really focuses quite a bit on the story of your family. So, would you tell us a little bit about your family and particularly Danny's story within the family?
oh, certainly. Yes, well, I'm the second person in our family of 7 siblings, and our youngest member is Danny, and he turned 52 this year, and he's been, really fantastic all our life as far as, bringing the family together, and all of our parents, and then as siblings, we've known that, he has an important role to play, and so therefore he's been a catalyst for a lot of things that have happened in Geelong and in our family, and so he's very special. Yes, he's very special, and
And Danny was born with cerebral palsy, is that right?
he was. Yeah, I've got a picture of him here
Ah,
on his 50th, and what I was in the newspaper, which I might read to you later. But anyway, yes, he was born, yes, with cerebral palsy, and as I said, he was the baby of the family, and we're fairly spread out. He's 20 years younger than me, so obviously, we've seen him grow up, but my parents were, fairly keen to get involved, to sort of, well, very early on, they said, well, we've got to think about the future. And I couldn't quite understand at first. And they said maybe the church can get involved in helping think about, things in the future. And this evolved into my dad and the Knights of the Southern Cross, and then other churches got involved, and then they started raising lots of money towards building accommodation. So that was very sort of early on, and showed a bit of foresight, but certainly they were well supported by parish and then the church and then people in Geelong. And that's eventuated that they did buy a house back when Danny was about 16. So now it's 5 houses and under the NDIS. So it sort of evolved into that. So I know it wasn't Lush, and over time I thought, oh, that'd be good. But anyway, that's how he
and could you tell
encouraged
us a
us.
little bit about Faith and Light and how your journey with Faith and Light began?
Yes, well, during this time when Danny was 7 or 8, I remember going to some Faith and Light meetings in Geelong, and they're actually held at St Mary's Technical School in the same ground as where we're actually going now. And the Christian Brothers sort of hosted it, and the people from Melbourne came down, and I've got programs through like early 80s and even 1988. There was a long program that they used to come down from Melbourne and, invite the Geelong people. So it wasn't exactly a group there, but they belonged to that. And I remember going, and my dad used to wheel Danny in the pusher and so forth. And once I actually went to Melbourne to a group, but then I was up in New South Wales. But that sort of was in my mind. And when I went to Goulburn the very first day, Sister Nikki Flippo was there at the House of Prayer, which Eileen would know well. And she said, "Oh, why don't you come with me? I'm going to Faith and Light." And I sort of thought, "Oh, okay." Having a vague idea, but as soon as I got there, I realised, and I thought, this is it. I want to go along here. But it was really through Danny that I first even knew about it. That's right, and continued on.
And so Faith and Light is an international community, isn't it?
Oh, it certainly is, and they're actually going to celebrate 50 years in 2021. So that's a big, big milestone. And as people would know, it came out of Lourdes, and there was certainly pilgrimages there, and it spread throughout the world, and with various people visiting here and so on, and around Australia. And Australia belongs to Australia New Zealand province, so we belong to that, but certainly international, yes. And the materials that we get, such as their guidelines, they're written in different countries every year, and that gives us a program to work with. So definitely international.
And is the community ecumenical as well now?
Oh, yes. Well, of starting in Lourdes, well, Catholic, but and European, I suppose a lot of groups were, but definitely ecumenical. And my experience in Bowral and Goulburn, certainly, a lot of the community come from different, usually Christian backgrounds, and that's been even the experience here. Even though we've been just beginning and meeting in a church area, other people have come along that heard about it and wanted to join, and so the materials, it's definitely can be used in that way. Yes.
And what have you learned particularly, Tricia, from that ecumenical connection? As someone who's grown up in a Catholic culture, and I imagine uh, um, that for some Catholics, it's quite a journey into the ecumenical culture. So, have there been some learnings for you?
Oh yes, I've had friends that I've still got that, and when I first come along in Bowral, other members in their family said, "Oh, don't go there because that's Catholic," and so forth. I heard things, but because the gospel is reaching out to everyone, and then when you're there, the people with a disability and sharing, and they're giving, and the Spirit's there, and everyone's together, and it's just you forget backgrounds. But I also know that with some of the carers, and I even had an experience here, that that's sort of come right around now. At first, a bit of hesitancy that it's Catholic and you've got Mary in the prayer, but once you explain that Jesus had a mother at the cross, his mother was there, his friend John was there. He needed those people, and we all need family and friends, and it just sort of makes sense. And then the people say, well, actually, as a carer, I didn't think I'd be welcome, but you've included me in what's happening. And so they begin to share. And it's definitely, that's what happens, So,
Yeah.
you go there being open, and you get a lot more. And now even people say, well, can I suggest something or bring a prayer or be involved? And that's what's, after a while, that comes to that, which is good. Yes.
In the article, Tricia, you spoke a little bit about that area of spirituality and disability. And What's been the journey with Danny's spirituality through
Oh,
Faith and Light?
okay. Well, through Faith and Light, certainly, it's the church is, you could say, reaching out, or they're included, and so these days there's much more inclusion in churches since there used to be. But with Danny, my dad was always keen that he'll make his first communion, and he really tried hard, but it didn't seem to happen, even though he went to a lot of a few people, a few priests, and also we used to take him to mass every week, and he was always there. And anyway, my father died when he was 18, and he's it still hadn't happened, and I wasn't there all of that time. And so during that time, when Danny turned 18, the same year that Pope John Paul came out here, and out of the whole crowd of the thousands of people, and he wasn't even going the day before, an usher came and said, well, Pope wants to meet 12 people on the altar. And so up he went, and that was very special. And there's other Faith and Light people. I've seen them in the picture since then. But anyway, after that sort of big event, the priest said, well, look, in the whole parish, the only person to meet the Pope was Danny, so we should take more notice. And that was a bit of a catalyst for people to be a bit more aware, but it still took us 3 years. But in the end, one of the Brigidine sisters helped us and said, oh, I'll teach him. And so he made it when he was 21. So the priest said, Sister Nikki was there, she came down for that. He said, oh, I'm sorry to the family that I didn't do it earlier. But my sister said, well, that's okay. But if you want to say anything, maybe you apologise to Danny. And I remember that quite well, but he was a beautiful priest and now in heaven. But anyway, that's sort of our journey in the family. And so I've often thought about children receiving the sacraments and people with disability receiving sacraments, and keeps a sort of an interest in that as I've gone along. And one of our Faith and Light members, who's nearly 50, made his confirmation in Bowral a few years ago, and that come out of being in Faith and Light and talking about it. And and also just people in group houses taking them to mass. That's another thing which doesn't happen that often because it's not something people think of. They'll take other people, and so some of us used to try and do that as well, and that brings awareness and involvement as well. So Faith and Light can have a bit more sort of influence. So does
It's
that answer
wonderful.
your question?
Trish, what do you think is the biggest challenge for the churches in the area of disability? Are people afraid? Are they ignorant? Or is there a real prejudice about disability? What's your experience? And has it changed in recent years? Are we really becoming more welcoming and inclusive of people with disability across all our churches?
Oh, definitely. Well, as I said, I've just been, kind of an observer, but I was able to belong to a couple of groups where they were, like one in Wollongong, where they're working really hard to prepare the sacramental guidelines. And of course, the people in Canberra doing lots of work now. There's so lots of things have happened to prepare people to be welcoming. And even in catechetics, there was some, extra material taught to when we were revising our catechism. And so I thought that's an area which is be great to see every parish saying, here's the First Communion program, any children with disability, welcome, which I'm sure does happen, but not as a rule. And but I think hopefully it comes more. And then the other thing, that inclusion masses we used to be part of in Wollongong, like, of course they can be included, but as a special event, it used to open people's eyes to see that there were people out there in the parish that wanted to be involved, like hand out the papers or be in the offertory procession or read. And so, Father Greg and the Wollongong people have facilitated, that quite regularly over a few years, and just to be part of it. And the parish says, well, can you help organise? So you do, and then so many people just see things and realise what we're getting at. Yeah, so I think things are definitely
And
going ahead.
yeah, you mentioned that Danny was featured in a local paper at his 50th birthday. Do you think this
Yeah.
might be an example of where the church, as a welcoming community, is able to help the wider community become more aware and accepting and inclusive of people with disability? Do you think there's that sort of conversation is happening as well?
Uh, yes, I think it is, but I suppose there's always room for more, and just as like just the church in any parish, there might be a few people that are there, but people don't know them or don't know how to get to know them, or they're sitting on the outside, or they may not. At communion time, sometimes I've noticed they're sort of left till last, or just little things happen. And if you can be aware and kind of do something about it, it's good, I think. But
And
I'm
Tricia,
only speaking where I've been. I'm sure there's, lots of good stories all these other people listening could say. Yes.
can you tell us a little bit about Danny's life? What does Danny do?
Oh, okay. Well, if you want to read something, last year he was in the Mercy magazine they have every quarter, and he was interviewed going to the football and with his carer, and that was great because they wanted to see what it was like going on an outing. But his life, well, he was at home till he was 18, as I said, and then as a child, well, there was other girls older and so on, but we were always sort of told, now if he's watching TV, don't change it, or just be aware and talk to him, and take him for a walk. And so we knew that. So like, he doesn't speak, but he's now got some instruments to help him indicate and so on. So medically things have changed in 50 years, so of course there's lots more now. But no, he's had a good life, in the sense he's always had loving family and loving parents, and tried to involve him in the community all the time, and also to make us aware that he should be involved in the community. So we learned that. And then he's been in the group home since 18, and the last year I was in Geelong, like, he used to go during the week and then come home on the weekend. It's very hard to say goodbye, go back for a week. And in the end, we decided he was okay to be there full time with other friends of his own age. And that caring has evolved from, charity care, or, community care, to now NDIS care. So it's, really going well. And one thing I've done during COVID is just send them a link to the Mass every week from the parish here at St Mary's that he knows, so that he can see the priests he knows and the carers. I explained it all. I thought, well, why should he miss out? Because they were taking him every week on a Thursday. And now we've had no Mass since hardly the whole year. And so I thought, use my brain, send the link. And then I thought of some other people that, I could do that for. So that was the little thing. So now they sit down and watch it with him every week. So, and that when I mentioned it, he was on a phone hookup, we could see his face. He just really lit up, and he knew the words that I said and the priest name. And so that's one thing, because we can't go there at the moment. We can't see him. That's the thing. And and also just the fact he was always smiling and always happy, and that just does you good.
Mm. Just you mentioned that Danny now uses new technology for communicating. I don't know whether you know, but this week is a week called Get Online Week, which is encouraging people to become much more aware and skilled up in technology. So,
Yes.
for someone like yourself and Danny's carers and friends, did you have to go on a bit of a journey yourself to learn technology so that you could support Danny with this new tool?
Well, we had some training with the occupational therapist or speech therapist last year, actually. Yes, we did. And my older sister, who was a nurse, she was really keen on this for years. She was saying about this sort of thing. And anyway, so, you can, like, it's beginning, but, you can say yes, no, or I don't like this, or something like that. And then the lady said, oh, well, next time you have Faith and Light friends group, I'll come along and help him communicate. And so I was thinking, oh, how's that going to go? But we haven't had that meeting because of COVID. So it was interesting that this carer wanted him to communicate everywhere he goes. So I was looking forward to learning more about that. I was, yes. So
Tricia,
about that.
that's been an exciting conversation. It's been wonderful to meet you and
Thank you.
to have this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I've put a link up on the Last Australia webpage to the article, and we'll pop this video up so people can learn more, and particularly encourage people around the Geelong region that are
Yes.
interested in your work to get in touch with the Faith and Light community down there.
Thank you. Well, I'll just say thank you to you and some of the people present that have helped me along the way, and also the Faith and Light leaders that are encouraging us, in our journey. Thank you.